thought of myself married already. Definitely having my own house, moved out and stuff like that. Um, Secured in like whatever I was intending it to do with life. At 17, that was kind of when I started to understand like what I wanted to do. I was moving toward like communications and stuff. So I seen myself as like a news anchor at the time, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get married, and then I'm gonna have kids, and I'm gonna have a boy and a girl, like the whole fantasy thing. Yeah, like it was never a twins dream. No, I, I just. It would be a blessing. It would be a blessing, but that's a lot. One baby at one time is a lot. So two at the same time, I don't know. I don't know. But that was just like my whole what I envisioned for myself. It didn't plan out that way. I got pregnant with my daughter when I was 20, and then by my 21st birthday, she was 5 months. So, yeah, it didn't happen that way. No, not the way I envisioned it.
That moment when you found out.
I was excited. I was excited. I always wanted to be a mom. So I was super excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm about to have a baby. I was very sick though. I had severe hyperemesis. So for like 8 months of my pregnancy, I was in the hospital.
Okay. So what is super hyperemesis?
It's literally like you're vomiting all day. So it's like morning sickness, but all day. You can't really keep anything down. And what they do here in Buffalo is they have this thing called a PICC line, where I just have to be super hydrated in order to maintain. I guess my body just needs more water than normal in order to maintain some type of balance, so I'm not throwing up all the time.
It was the summer, and I was like, okay, having my fun, doing my thing, and I started feeling sick. So it started off at work. I was working, and I work with one of my best friends. So we're in the car, and we're driving around with the kids, and I'm like, whoa, I don't know, I just feel so sick. She's like, wow, what is it? I said, I don't know, I just feel sick. Maybe I'm just stressed. She was like, oh, you know how people give you that look, like, okay. So I'm like, whoa, I'm just so sick. So she had to pull over, and I had to get out and vomit and stuff like that. And she's like, wow, you're really sick. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I don't know. I think I'm just stressed. So we just keep going. And then I'm going to work every day, but I'm still feeling sick. Now it's different. It smells in the house. So everything, I'm just running to the bathroom. I'm sick. I'm like, I'm stressed out. So then it goes to my friends. I'm like, guys, I don't know what happened, but I just been feeling sick lately. So they're like, that's weird. So then the moment I was like, wow, like I might actually be pregnant, my mom came over and she was like, oh, you've been sick for a couple of days. I'm going to come to your house and cook for you. I'm like, okay. So she made me tacos. So as soon as I ate, I ran to the bathroom and threw up. She was like, And I said, Mom, I don't know what's been going on, but I've been sick the past like week or so. She was like, the past week? I said, yeah, I think it's just stress. She said, no, that's what pregnant women do. Because I ate and went right to the bathroom right after. She was like, that's what pregnant women do. I said, no, not me. No, not me. I just said, no, I'm just stressed out. She said, okay. And then my parents left my house. And my mom, I talked to my mom the next day. She said, I talked to your dad. And I said, And they called me Moni. Moni might be pregnant. My dad was like, oh my goodness, she might be. So I was like, nah, Mom, I'm just stressed. So then it came to me and my friends. We always have girls' night. So we had a girls' night. And we had went to Walmart. And I was like, it was my best friend, Justine. I said, Justine, I think I need to get a test just to take it. I think I'm stressed, but I'm going to just take it. So she said, okay. So I remember that day so vividly. We went in Walmart. And it was just babies, like literally everywhere. Like it was like how it is in movies. Like I'm just seeing babies, pregnant women, baby. And I'm like, is it just me or are we seeing a lot of kids? And just seeing like, yeah, that is weird. So then we get the test and we get in line and it's just the little girl and she just smiling at me. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, oh my goodness. Yes. I was like, oh my goodness, like this is so weird. She was like, yeah, this is weird. So we didn't think nothing of it. So we get back to my house. Now, mind you, we're having girls' night. So we have alcohol, we got food, all of that stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I still don't feel good. Like I'm just feeling a little sick. So they're like, oh, just go in the bathroom and take the test. So I go take the test. The test come back negative. So I'm like, oh, I'm good. So I'm like, I'm okay. So I'm having fun. We having drinks, everything like that. I'm like, I'm good. I knew I was just stressed.
Give me be shots. Let's celebrate.
I'm like, no, I'm good. We're okay. So I actually think I took it wrong because it came back negative. And I was like, okay, threw it right out. I might have not gave it the time, whatever. So then I'm still feeling sick. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. I'm still feeling sick, even though I took the test and said no. So then I was like, okay. Now, mind you, I was late. So I'm like, I was late too. I'm feeling sick. So then I was like, oh, it came. I finally got my period. I was like, bam. I'm good. The next day, it went away. I said, oh, shoot. So it went away. So I said, well, let me just call my doctor. So I called the doctor, told him, like, I've been feeling sick. Now, this is when COVID was coming out, was first happening. So they was like, okay, well, we're going to send you for blood work for a pregnancy test and a COVID test. I said, okay, that's fine. So I went, got my blood work, and they came back the next day. Now I have an app on my phone that gives me the results of my test. So I'm looking, I get the email, your results are in. So I got my results. The email came in like, your results are in from your blood work 24 hours later. So I look at it, and it says the red for negative for the COVID antibodies, and it says green for pregnant. So I said, huh? I said, no, I got to call my doctor and make sure. Like, I was in denial so much. I said, no, I got to call my doctor. So I called my doctor, and they said, okay, we'll give a message to the nurse. The nurse will call you back. So I said, okay. So the nurse calls me back, and she was like, well, yeah, I went over your results, and one, you're going to be happy. I have good news, and I don't know how you're going to feel about the other one. And I said, okay. She said, the good news is you're negative for COVID. The other news is you're pregnant. I said, huh? She said, yeah. She said, how do you feel? I said, okay, I guess. I don't know.
Me and my boyfriend at the time, we came back from Dave & Buster's after like drinking, well, me, because he doesn't drink. And we came back from Dave & Buster's. I got home at like 1 a.m. And I realized, and you know, my period was late. So I didn't think nothing of it because I was on birth control. And sometimes it would fluctuate a little bit. Sometimes it'll come a week later than it's supposed to. I mean, I tracked it, but I knew it would come eventually just because that's how birth control works. Sometimes it's not always to the same exact date depending on the type of pill you take. So when I found out, I went in the bathroom and I was just playing around. I kept a whole bunch of pregnancy tests on me just because I had to be prepared. I'm like, you know, and I did it. I was just, you know, I'm using the bathroom and I take a test just because I was like, let me just do this. I know it's gonna be negative because my period probably gonna come the next day or two. And 2 minutes passed. I went back in the bathroom and it said positive. And literally my heart sunk to my stomach because I thought it was broken. And I'm like, this is incorrect. So I walked out the bathroom and my face was so pale. And my boyfriend goes, well, husband now, he goes, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing. And I go to bed. So the next morning, I couldn't sleep that whole night. So the next morning I get up, I run to Target, I go get another pregnancy test. And it says, I go back, he's still sleeping at the time. I go back in the bathroom and it say positive again. And I'm like, wow. And literally I went in the living room and I shut the bedroom door and I sat on the couch and just cried. I cried. I was so devastated. And I never forget, I was scared. I was like, this is not real. Like, I am not pregnant. I was disappointed. I was scared. I was upset. I had like all these emotions going through my mind. And the reason why I felt that way was I was young. I just started my new job and we just moved in probably a year prior. We had a 1-bedroom apartment, completely unprepared for a baby. I had an old car that was unreliable. He had just started a new job and we were just completely unprepared. I was unprepared to be a mother. I just wasn't ready to think about pregnancy and labor and delivery and bringing a child into this world because it was like I felt like I was young. I felt like, you know, I know there's teen pregnancies and that's even young, but you never feel prepared. I don't care how old you are. I probably would have felt the same way if I was 16, being 23. So I felt scared and I never forget he came in the living room and I had the 2 pregnancy tests underneath the pillow. And then when he saw him, I took the pillow up, and when he was like, what's wrong? And he was like, are you serious? And I just bust out crying again. And I'm like, I'm not ready. But like I said, the reason why is because I was just scared. The thought of pregnancy scared me. I just wasn't ready. And all these thoughts was just flashing through my head, like money, where we gonna live? I need a new car. I'm not ready for this. Like, I'm not ready for my body to completely change. And I'm such a realist. I'm a realist thinker. And I think about the future in like literally 60 minutes or 60 seconds. Like the future, like a whole 9 months, a whole 6 months, a whole year would flash through my head when I find out news that could like affect how life could be. So that's why it took it so hard. But that was kind of like, that's how I felt when I found out I was pregnant. And I never forget, it was, like I said, it was a couple weeks shy from my birthday. So I'm like, wow.
It was horrible. So I was the type of person, I had a birth plan. I had, my baby won't do this, my baby won't do that. I will never do this as a mother. I had it all mapped out. It did not go that way at all. So I was in labor for a couple of days. My contraction actually started, my contraction started on Saturday. I had my baby on Tuesday. Yes. So I was going through I'm going to have a natural birth. I'm not going to do any medication, anything like that.
Could you eat?
Yeah.
At that time? Okay.
Yes. So I was planning on doing a natural birth. So, and I also had a doula, which helped with this labor. So Saturday, I started having contractions. I didn't know what it was. I'm like, I'm a little crampy. I don't know what this is. My doula was like, you're having contractions. They were 8 minutes apart. So she was like, you don't need to go to the hospital. When they got really hard, my doula came over and she stayed with me all night, which helped me get through it, because I would have been like, I'm going right to the hospital. I can't do this anymore. So my doula came to my house. She stayed with me all night. She rubbed my back, gave me warm cloths, told me to get in the shower and everything like that. Took me through. But then it came to a point where I was like, this is too much now. Like, I'm tired. I haven't slept for a couple of nights because I'm in pain. I'm going to the hospital. So I went to the hospital and they said, well, you're still not dilated all the way. You're not ready. So we can induce you, or you can go back home and do this some more. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. Mind you, I was a person. I had a birth plan. I'm doing everything natural, no inductions, everything. At this point, I'm in pain for days, so give me what you have to give me. So when I went to the hospital, they told me, like, well, we can give you an induction. The hospital is crowded, so you can go back home and do this some more, or we can induce you and get this rolling. I'm like, what? Like, I was the person that was all against this. So what do you mean? So I talked to a nurse there who was also a doula, and she told me about inductions and that it could lead to a C-section. So I'm just like, all of this is things I don't want to do. So I'm like, induction, C-section, or I have to go home and do this pain again. What are you talking about? Mind you, I'm a new mom. I've never been through none of this. So I'm like, what?
I was actually young. I was 18, and I was scared, nervous. I knew off the back I was gonna have the baby though. But to each their own. I don't believe in abortions. So I knew, again, I was raised in the church, and in my head, there really should only be abortion for like a rape or if the mother needs to have it. So at the same time, I knew what I was doing. I was in a relationship. We were being young and wild, and yeah, I just remember I felt so hot that week, and everything was making me so angry, and like the littlest things. And then I took a test, and it was positive. Actually, I took a test the week prior because I was real sick, and it was negative. I even took a test at the doctor's office. It was negative. So the week after, and I'm like, something's just still not right. Maybe it was too soon. And I actually took a test at his mom's house. He was at work. I was hanging out with his mom on my off day. I love mother-in-laws. And we were just hanging out. And I had ran to the store for her, I think, and that's when I had grabbed the test. I didn't tell her I was taking it, but I went in the bathroom, took the test, positive, and I told him I went to go get him from work, and that's when I told him, and he wasn't much so happy about it. It shouldn't have been a surprise,
but he wasn't very happy about it, and I shouldn't say I was happy. I shouldn't say I was sad. I was more so in shock. Like I said, I knew I was having a child, but at the same time, I had just started college, and I was working like 50 hours a week as an assistant manager, like at Dollar General. So for me, I was kind of like, and I just bought my car, and I felt like it was a small stepping stone, or a small block in the road. And he wasn't so happy then, and so it kind of made me not so happy in the beginning, and yeah.
When I got pregnant with my daughter, the way it happened was, it's crazy because, like I told you, I'm originally from Chicago, but I was raised here. At the time, me and my mom were at odds with each other, so she shipped me off to Chicago and said, "You're gonna go stay with," and I stood with my aunt, her sister. I think that it started at age 16 is when she first sent me over there. So I lived with my aunt. So when I lived with my aunt, my life was totally different. I didn't have the responsibilities of younger children like I did back home. I kind of did what I wanted, if I'm being completely honest with you. I went to school. I was a full-time student. I was in high school, but I also worked a job. And my aunt didn't really micromanage me or tell me what to do. I had rules to follow, so I don't want you to think that it was just a free-for-all. But, my weekends were how I wanted to spend them. Like I said, with, the exception to I have to follow her rules. I had to be home at whatever time she said and stuff like that, but she just wasn't on me, and I didn't have no one else to look after. Like I said, when I lived back at home with my mom, I couldn't do these things because I was always stuck at home watching the kids. So anyways, I met my daughter's father, and we were we were kind of like a summer fling, I guess, if you would call it. I felt like I had all this freedom and I didn't know what to do with it, if I'm being honest. And I met her father. It was cool. It was nothing crazy, but our relationship became sexual, and we ended up, doing what grown folks do. I'm not going to say he had no business doing that because he was older than me. I was 17, he was 20. And to make a long story short, I'll never forget when I knew that him and I were taking it there, I said, I'm not going to have a teen pregnancy. So I took myself to the doctors. I didn't talk to my aunt. I didn't go to anybody older. At the time, I was doing all those things for myself. So I took myself to the doctors, and I was like, I need to get on birth control. And they're like, okay, no problem. So they do their whole thing where they, give you a pregnancy test before they prescribe that for you. Pregnancy test came back negative. Whew, I'm in the clear. I was super excited. Yes, I'm about to do grown folks things, but I'm going to make sure I'm protected, at least from babies and things of that nature, right? And so I got my prescription, and I will never forget this. Got my prescription, and the lady was like, take these on your next menstrual cycle, or, whenever you can start. And it was the pill. So I was like, okay, cool. Say less. And so my period never came. So what I'm saying is I was already pregnant, but it was too early to tell. So period never came. My body started to go through some changes, and I had never been pregnant before, so I didn't know what I was experiencing, but I was tired all the time. I was experiencing tenderness in my breast, just things that obviously a woman goes through when, she has conceived. So I was like, I gotta take a test. I was like, my period hasn't come. I have to figure out what's going on. So, I went and bought a test, and this was maybe at this point, maybe 3 weeks after I received the prescription for the birth control. And when I took that test said positive, okay? So I was distraught. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was my senior year of high school. So it was the summer before that I was, getting mixy and being grown. So I was like, oh my God, school's about to start. All these things came to my head, Honestly, I was scared. Scared to tell my family, scared to tell my mom, scared that I was even capable of being a mom. I knew that I was maternal because I felt that way about my siblings, as weird as that's gonna sound, but I still didn't know if I had the tools and the means to be a mom, right? I'm 17 years old. I don't even have a pot to piss in. I don't have anything.
It was like an accidentally on purpose. Yeah. Me and her father were just like, we were so in love. He was my high school sweetheart. We were so in love and just young, thinking we know everything. We got everything situated. Both living with our parents, like, and having babies, okay? But it was like, oh, if it happens, it happens. We not doing anything to protect ourselves from not getting pregnant. So the complications, I was trying to have a natural birth. So in trying to have a natural birth, my body, feeling the contractions, were so tight from it hurting so bad. I was clenching up every single time. So my cervix was only opening like partially. I think I had got to like 8 centimeters or something, but I just wouldn't open no further because I was just tightening up the entire time because it was hurting. I felt her body moving through my body.
How big was the baby that she couldn't come out at 8 centimeters?
She was...
I know 10 is the sweet spot.
10 is the sweet spot.
So she, like 8 pounds.
She was like 7.5.
Okay.
She was like 7.5 pounds. 7.5. She was 7.5 pounds. But no, she wasn't coming out at that point. Oh, I did not want to get an epidural. Like, I didn't want it. But they were just like, you're going to have to get an epidural because you ain't dilating no more. Like, it's not happening. And I was really, like, the anxiety from that moment with them telling me I had to do it, it was through the roof. Because I'm not really like a pill taker, medicine person. I don't like medicine. And I know some women who have had complications when they get the epidural, they have back issues and stuff. So I just didn't want to get it, but they were just like, that's the only other way, or we're going to have to give you a cesarean. And that was just like out of the question. So I went ahead and got the epidural. I couldn't feel anything. And that really like bummed me out because I couldn't feel her coming out. And they were telling me to push and all this extra stuff. And I'm just like, I don't even know what I'm doing. And they weren't supposed to give me an epidural even at 8 centimeters dilated. Like, that's way too late in the game for them to even give it to you, but they gave it to me anyway.
So she said, okay. So she went through, follow up with my doctor and everything. So I said, okay. So I texted my best friend. So I'm like, guys, I'm pregnant. So they're texting me back like, I can't wait to be an aunt. We so happy. How you feel? I'm like, I don't know. So then I text the father and I called him and I said, came back positive. He was like, oh, I had a feeling you were, I probably knew it, And I'm like, but I don't understand this. I got my period. Like, what happened? He's like, yeah, I had a feeling you were. I'm like, okay. So then I called my mom. And I literally got on the phone and I was crying. And my mom said, She said, what's wrong? And I just burst out into tears. And I said, Mom, I'm pregnant. Like, I was 16. So she was just so confused. She was on the phone. She was like, okay, like, congrats. Like, why are you crying? I'm like, I don't know.
I'm emotional already.
I said, I don't know. I'm literally just crying on the phone to her. She was like, okay, like, you'll be okay. And I feel like that's the moment where I knew my mom is like my rock. Like, that was the moment where my mom, wherever she wasn't there for, it doesn't matter. Because in that moment, she said exactly what I needed to hear. She was like, what are you crying for? Because I was afraid I was going to let her down. Like, I'm pregnant. I'm not married. That's negative, But at this point, I got my degree. I'm done with school. I'm working. It's fine. So she's like, what are you crying for? She was like, I had my baby at 25. You're going to do this. You're going to be okay. We're going to get through it. And me and your dad are going to be here every step of the way. No matter who won't, we will, and you're going to go through with this. And I was like, okay, I can do this. I'm pregnant. Like, that's when I started getting excited, and I'm like, I'm pregnant. Like, we're going to do this. So, yeah. And I went to work, and because mind you, I've been at work saying I'm just stressed out, and everybody telling me, like, no, we think you're pregnant. I'm like, no, I'm just stressed. So I go into work. Everybody's sitting on the couch. We work in the house. And I just walked in, I'm like, yeah, I am pregnant. Everybody's like, I knew it. Oh, my goodness. So, yes. They're like, you're not stressed. We knew you weren't stressed. Oh, my goodness. And my best friend at work, she's like, I can't wait. I'm so excited. And I was like, I guess so. Like, I guess this is what we going with. So then I went to talk to the father because I told him, it's positive. Now we got something to talk about because we're about to have a baby and we weren't together. Do you want me to just keep going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Say what you need to say.
Okay. So, So I'm like, okay, I done talked to my mom. She done gave me the green light. Like, we're good. Like, I'm feeling okay. Like, I know, like, this is a lot, but she told me, like, me and your daddy's going to be there every step of the way, you know, because she was the one person I was like, dang, like, she's going to be so disappointed in me. I did everything right. I graduated school. I went to college, got my degree, got a good job. I'm doing everything right, but now I'm pregnant without being married. That's not right. You know what I mean? So her giving me that, no, you're fine and it's okay, that was, like, everything I needed, you know? So, oh, and my dad. So my dad, he's somebody, like, I'm a daddy's girl. I grew up a daddy's girl. So I'm like, oh my God, like, how is he going to react? So my mom she's the one who told my dad that I'm pregnant. And at first he was like, oh, he does this thing where he walks by the water every day. So he's like, I'm going to go take a walk by the water. So I'm like, Mom, how did Dad react? She's like, he's processing. So he took his walk by the water, and then me and him went on a ride, and he let me know, like, I'm behind you 100%. You know, you did everything right. I can't ask no more of you, and I'm happy for you. Congratulations.
Feeling like you are scared, disappointed, upset, not sure about what's going to happen next. Maybe you upset about who you had the baby by. Maybe it was an accident, completely unprepared. Maybe the guy you're pregnant by is, you know, you have no intentions in being in a relationship with them. So that even factors into the scared feeling even more. And, you know, I have friends who've been pregnant in those situations where it was like not even supposed to happen. The outcome wasn't supposed to be that way. So I get that understanding. But those feelings are completely normal to feel that way because, like I said, women naturally plan ahead, and they observe, like they look at their life and see the situation they're in. And it's normal to find out news that you're completely unprepared for and realize and have all these thoughts rushing through your mind. So the first thing to do is to breathe. That's what I had to tell myself, to breathe, to relax. You're going to be thinking like crazy, but know that there is a reason for everything. So it's to kind of take the positivity out of it and think about, you know, start planning, start thinking about, okay, you know, yes, this is unexpected, but what can we do? What can we do to start planning? What can we do to start changing and adapting? And how can I make this work? Who can I talk to? Because those feelings are temporary when you start getting those rushes through your head about what's happening, like, why is this happening to me? I'm crying, you become very emotional. So it's completely normal. I think it's important to take those feelings and kind of bottle them up for that very moment and start planning, talking to your friends, your mother, your sisters, and kind of getting a different perspective about motherhood. And it's normal to feel, because me personally, you know, I was like, am I going to get an abortion? Like, I'm completely not ready. Like, I don't want to be a mom right now. Not in my lifetime. Like, I knew that right away. It's like, you know, you think about, like I said earlier to you, you think about parenthood and motherhood as like fun and games. Like, oh my God, baby fever, she's so cute. But when it actually happens, you're like, oh crap, like this is really like about to happen to me, and I know I'm about to give up. It's about to be mass sacrifices about to happen, and then you immediately be like, no, I don't want. It's all fun and games until it actually happens. But like I say, it's important to kind of take a step back and think about and start planning and see what can work. But like I said, sometimes things just don't work. Sometimes the situations, pregnancy, sometimes people can't make it work in that current lifestyle. It's like, it's the hardest decision a woman has to make is to, do I want to continue on with this? I can't do it right now. You know, maybe the person that you got pregnant by is completely, you don't even want them in your life, in the child's life. You don't even want any ties to them in that way. It really is a hard decision. And I say that to say that not all the time you're going to take a step back and be like, okay, I'm going to make this work. I'm about to start planning about where I can move. It's not that easy. Sometimes it takes days to think over about whether you should keep the baby or whether you should continue on with motherhood. And the best decision, the best advice is do what's important for you. Whatever you think is important for your life, your body. You know, talk to people. I think that's the most important thing. Talk to your support system to see what your next steps would be and to kind of help you through those feelings of, should I continue on? Should I not?
So during the time where I was pregnant, I was taking care of my grandma. My grandma she had breast cancer, and she got to a point where she can't live by herself anymore. So she was 85, and she got breast cancer once. She beat it perfectly fine, living by herself, still driving at 85, everything. So she got to a point, it came back again, and then her mind started to go. So they're like, she can't drive anymore. She can't live by herself anymore. She needs 24/7 care. So she went from literally being totally independent to needing 24-hour care. So during that time, I was taking care of my grandma when I found out I was pregnant. So mind you, my grandma, as she's getting, older, she's starting to lose her mind, lose her memory. But she still is sort of with it, but it's times where she would lose it and stuff like that. So I remember before I was pregnant in the summer, she said to me, she was like, don't become a baby mama because they don't respect baby mamas. So I'm like, shoot. When I find out I was pregnant, because at this time I'm taking care of my grandma, and I had to tell her, I want to tell her I'm pregnant, I'm having a baby, because at times I would be at her house getting sick. So I would have to hide it. I would be giving her a nightly shower and then go out in the hallway and have to throw up. Like, you know what I mean? So I was like, well, I have to tell her. So I ended up telling my grandma. We were sitting down, and I just gave her a shower. So we were sitting down, and I said, Nana. She said, what? I said, I'm pregnant. And I literally didn't know how she would react, because at this point she's really blunt. So if she's mad, she's going to say it. She don't care about your feelings, because she just don't have it. Yeah. So she said, you are? I said, yeah. She said, oh, you're joking. I said, no. So I showed her a sonogram picture. She said, that's a baby. You're pregnant. I'm like, yeah, I am. And she was like, wow, for real? I said, yeah, for real. Because mind you, I'm a person, I'm the one, they know I went to school, I graduated, I did everything in the order that I'm supposed to. So it's like, you pregnant? You not married? You know what I mean? So she's like, you? Really? I'm like, yeah, Nana, I am. She was like, but I asked you last week, was you dating? And you said no. Because mind you, I'm not trying to bring nobody around my family. You know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, I am. She was like, congratulations. And I was like, wait, what? Literally everybody was shocked by their reactions. I called my mom. I was like, Mom. She said, congrats. She said, huh? I said, yeah. Because she had told me prior to that, don't be a baby mama. They don't respect baby mamas, stuff like that. And she was just so loving and embracing. She said, congratulations. So then from that point on, I'm still taking care of her while I'm pregnant too. So I'm going over there at night, giving her showers. And I would go over there and she would just be like, are you okay? How are you doing? Can you still do these showers? You're pregnant. Now, mind you, I'm about a month or two pregnant at this point. Can you still do this? Are you sure you can still? I know. Are you sure you can still do my showers? Yes, I can still take care of you. So, mind you, I'm close to her, so I'm taking care of her. We're going through that. I went through that while I was pregnant. You know what I mean? So that's a part of my motherhood journey. That's a part of what I went through, and that's a part of that you can't get through those hard times. You know what I mean? You can get through losing my grandma while pregnant. I was already super emotional. My grandma was my world. You know what I mean? So it was losing her while I was pregnant. I'm like, I can't go on. But God knew I needed my baby to be able to press on. You know what I mean? So the days I didn't feel like getting up, the days I didn't feel like eating, I did it solely because I'm pregnant. You know what I mean? So I know I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for my baby. Right. You know what I mean? So that motivated me okay, Simone, you got to keep going. Even though it feels like your world has stopped because you lost your grandma, it got to keep going for this new heartbeat you're going to have,
Yeah, once I took the epidural, up until that point, I was fine mentally. I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. But then the pain, I'm like, I can take the pain. I think I can do it. The epidural, just the medicine and everything, it slows the baby down. I felt so when she came out, she wasn't crying. You couldn't hear anything. So automatically, so many negative thoughts. I remember even saying out loud, is she alive? Because she wasn't saying nothing. And her father had looked at me why would you say that? What are you talking about? I'm like, I don't hear her. What's going on? So that just really affected me because I'm like, I took all this medicine and let them put this drug in me. And now I can't hear her. Like, I literally, and they didn't put her right on me because she wasn't breathing when she first came out. So I think it felt like 10 minutes. It probably wasn't 10 minutes though. It felt like 10 long minutes of me just like laying there. I can't feel my legs. I can't feel nothing. And then nobody's really speaking to me and telling me anything. Her father went to walk over to where she was. So I don't know where he is. Everybody, my auntie's taking pictures, and my sister was there, my little sister. She was more all up in my business than the doctors was. But once the baby came out, everybody just went over to the baby. So I'm literally just like laying there wondering like, what is going on? I can't hear anything. And I kind of just like blacked out for a little bit. I felt like I got hit by a bus. It felt so slow. Now that I'm talking about it, because I've never talked about it before, talking about it, I can vividly remember like laying there. Her father was right here, and he shot over there. My auntie and my sister were right here. They went over there, and I didn't hear anything but the doctors and the nurses talking. And I'm just like, is she alive? Is she alive? And then he came over and was like, why would you say that? I'm like, nobody's telling me anything. Like, is she alive? I can't hear her. Yeah. And then finally they came and like put her on my chest. And I was like, oh, hi, baby. And then after that, everything just like disappeared.
To make matters worse, I was already feeling awful about it because my daughter's father at the time, he sent me to hell. He was like, oh, you're pregnant? Oh, that ain't my baby. So he was very nasty about it too. So I guess what I'm saying is having to tell my daughter's father that I was pregnant, he didn't receive the information well, and he was really nasty about it. Then I told my mom about it. She was really nasty about it. And I felt like I didn't know what to do, but all in all, I decided to move back home, move back in with my mom, and kind of just like take it day by day. And then I made the decision just to keep her. I don't know why, but I just felt like it wasn't true to who I was to give her up. Even though I knew what I was up against, I knew at that moment I was probably more than likely going to be a single mom. I just accepted it for what it was, you know? I finished high school. I graduated. I'll never forget my principal. I actually graduated from Riverside High School, so here in Buffalo. And I'll never forget it because the whole time that I was in school, people would always be like, why are you here? You should just drop out. Go get your GED. But that just didn't feel like true to who I was. I was like, no, why would I do that? I'm like, they'd be like, well, you're pregnant. And I'm like, okay, I'm pregnant. I'm not handicapped. I could still come to school. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't understand anyone's theory. So I continued to go to school. I graduated. When I walked the stage, my daughter was sitting in the crowd with my mom. And I'll never forget, my principal hugged me so tight. And he was like, I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm so proud of you. And that felt good, you know? I was like, I still managed to graduate from high school when everyone thought that I wasn't going to. Because that's what everyone was saying that. Even though they weren't saying it to me, that was what was being said. And I heard a lot of the chatter and the things that people have said behind my back, or one way or the other, it had gotten back to me. But I felt accomplished. And so, yeah. With her father, like I said, when he was very dismissive about that news, just to backtrack a little bit, I moved with my mom. I decided to keep her, but I didn't talk to him. So it was when I was like 6 months pregnant that my mom and my family were like, you really should talk to him and tell him that you decided to keep the baby. They were like, maybe at that moment he wasn't able to receive that information like he should have, but maybe he'll have a change of heart. So I ended up telling him about it, and when my daughter was about 3 months pregnant, we made a trip to Chicago because all my family's from there, so we go there anyway. So once she had like her first set of shots and she was good and the clear to travel, we went to go visit my family, but I made it my business to bring her to her father. When he first saw her and I, the first thing he said was, got a cotton swab? You know what that is, DNA. I was so embarrassed that he even said that to me. My mom was present, his girlfriend at the time, because he's a serial dater, if you need a little bit of background on him. He likes to move on from woman to woman. So when I was presenting his daughter to him at the time, I wasn't looking for anything other than, this is your child. Do you want to have a relationship with her? If you do, let's co-parent. Let's coexist, right? And he was so rude about it. And that's kind of been the nature of the whole dynamic for a long time until finally I had to break that cycle, because I'll tell you what, he always he was only a father when he wanted to be a father. Like, he was absent a lot of the time, but then sometimes he would be around. He was very wishy-washy. Sometimes he would call her, sometimes he wouldn't. Sometimes he would look for her, sometimes he wouldn't. Sometimes he would remember a birthday, sometimes he wouldn't. So, you know, I went through a lot of years of that. Now, his mom, on the other hand, she's been supportive the entire time. She doesn't care how the baby came about. Her perspective on it is, that's my grandbaby, and I'm going to love on her regardless of how you and my son came here to this point. So that's the good thing I will say. She's always been present and always been involved and has always helped out. If anything, she's probably been my baby's father this whole time, because let me tell you something. She don't miss a birthday, a holiday, none of that, but he has.
You know? So now, mind you, I got the green light. My mom, my dad, they happy. My best friends are happy. We get to the father. So I call him. So I call him back. Pregnant, you know, it's positive. We got to talk. So he's like, okay, we're going to come over. You're going to come over. We're going to have a talk. So I was like, okay. So before I went to his house, I talked to my mom's best friend, because my mom was like, well, she want to know. She's like, your mom too. So call her and talk to her. So she said something to me before I had a conversation with him. I remember I was pulling up to his house and I was on the phone with her. And I said, you know, we were just talking. And she was like, well, you know, you're going to have this conversation. Just know you might go into this conversation and it's 3 of y'all, that's your family, but you might just have to carry on this pregnancy with just 2, you and your baby, you know? So I'm like, why is she saying this? I'm like, no, I'll be okay. I'm like, it's going to be okay, because he told me, like, he had a feeling I was. Like, he wasn't mad. Like, he didn't react bad. So then we had a conversation and it did not go good. So it was, I'm not ready for this. I'm still selfish. I want to move. Basically, we talked about this beforehand, and you said if you was to be pregnant, you would get rid of it. And we had that conversation, and I said, I don't think I would be ready for a kid, but it's different when you actually have one. So he was like, you said you would get rid of it. I don't want it. All of that stuff. And don't talk to nobody about this until we end up having our conversation and we decide what we want to do. Mind you, at this point, I done talked to my best friends, my mom, my dad. Like, I done talked to everybody, but I feel like he told me that because he didn't want no influence other than his, and, you know. So it was like, don't talk to anybody about it until we decide what we want to do. So I'm like, okay. I didn't say I already talked to everybody. I just said, okay. So that conversation didn't go good. It ended. It was awkward because it's like, I want to have the baby. We knew what we was doing this whole time. We only used a condom one time, and we was having sex like no other. You know what I mean? So it was just like, we both knew what could be the outcome. And you even said you knew I was pregnant. So here we are. So I left his house that night, and I was just like, I don't know, just all over the place, because it's like, I know my parents said they'll be by my side, but it's like, who wants to raise a baby without the father being there? He's saying he don't want it, and what am I going to do at this point, you know? So me and him, through this process, we just keep arguing. So, like, the whole time, we just keep arguing. So I go to the doctor's appointment. I went to my confirmation appointment to confirm I'm pregnant, all of that stuff. Yes, you are, everything. So I'm talking to him throughout the whole entire time. So we're just going back and forth. I don't want you to have it. I'm having it. I don't want you to have it. I'm having it. So I got to the point where I said, you know what? I'm having a baby. If you're not going to be here, you're not going to be here. I'm going through with it. So I feel like in that situation, one of us was going to be mad. If I kept it, if I got rid of it, somebody was going to be upset. But I decided this is what I have to do. So when I decided to keep it, I understood, like, if he's not here, he's not here. You know what I mean? I'm prepared to be a single mom. I'm prepared to do it by myself. I'm prepared for whatever, you know? And my mindset was, I also had a good job. I could take care of my baby. This is it, you know? So
great support system.
Yeah, I had a great support system. So I'm like, we're gonna do it. So my pregnancy, my parents literally did exactly what they said it was. Like, they were like the father in my pregnancy. You know what I mean? So My dad went to so many sonogram appointments with me. Like the sonogram lady, she's like, your dad is so wonderful. He's a great man. Like she loved him. Like the father came to one, and she was like, how does your dad feel about missing one? Like that's how many, that's how many sonograms like my dad was at.
Like, who is this man?
Yes, yes.
He's the father? What are you doing? Where's the grandfather?
Yes,
That's
yes,
who we're looking for.
yes, yes. So my parents was like my rock through everything. Like that's when literally I grew a different appreciation for my mother when I was pregnant because we did everything together. So like I had my own apartment, but I was at their house. They have like a bed that rises up and stuff. They're like, sleep in our room. You want to cover? You don't have to lift a finger. You hungry? I'm cooking for you. I didn't cook my whole pregnancy, nothing. Like they were like right there for me, you know? And that was like, wow, like this is what motherhood is, you know? And it don't stop. So like people be like, oh, you're doing this for 21 years. No, I'm 25 and my mom is still, you know what I mean, right here.
Because you're always going to be her baby.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yep,
you-
yep. And I never understood that. And it was like, I don't know. I feel like my pregnancy was amazing because of my parents. Like anything I wanted, whatever I needed, they were right there. Any appointments, anything. So when I'm arguing with him, I'm talking to my mom. And that's when we learned to have those candid conversations where she like, well, I went through this with this person. This is how you handle this. Or, you know, pray about it. Or we're praying and everything. Like she just took me through those hard times where it's like I'm pregnant and somebody keep reminding me how they don't want my baby or how they're not going to be here for me or things like that. So
Well, me finding out this time, I was so like, before I was a kid in my eyes. So I was like excited, oh, we about to have a baby. And then I got sick. So I didn't really have an opportunity to fully like understand what was happening. But this time, I'm so more aware of myself. Like I'm all into intuition and knowing your body and meditating and stuff. So I was really like in tune with my body. I knew I was pregnant. I was only like 2.5 weeks pregnant. I just knew it. So I was so excited. I was excited, but I was just like, okay. It was just like, we didn't plan for the baby, but it was just like, okay, we're married. So, okay, cool, whatever, we rolling with it. It was an excitement that was just like not knowing what's next, but being totally okay with it. Like, okay, we're going to have to move, whatever. Like everything, our entire lives would change. And it was 11 years later. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm about to go on a roller coaster ride. What type of mom am I going to be now? Like all the things were like turning in my brain, like everything that I learned and didn't do with Nyla, I'm going to do with this baby. So I was so excited. My husband was very excited. He wants a boy so bad. So he was just like, all right, there we go. I put all that energy in there. So he was excited about that. And I made my first doctor's appointment. My first doctor's appointment was supposed to be today, actually. Don't make me cry. It was supposed to be today. And I was just so in tune with my body. I was doing like meditations, pregnancy meditations. Thank you. And understanding like at week 1 what was happening, at week 2 what was happening, like knowing the fullness of life that was just happening inside of my body. When I got pregnant with Nyla, I didn't understand the importance of like being the temple for a human. But this time I'm just like, oh my gosh, like God chose me to have a baby and for me to be the house of this baby, and lungs are developing inside my body. Like, and I was just so aware of what was going on around me, like the energies that were happening around me, what I was talking about, what I was watching on TV. I became like super protective of myself. And I was just really excited. But then it was a lot of remember how I said with Nyla, there was no doubt in my mind. This time it felt like it was like an attack on my mind, like doubt. I went and bought a blanket. I just had this urge to just go buy the baby's blanket because I was so excited. I was like, I'm going to buy the first thing for the baby. The baby's not here, but it's this blanket that just says, I love you all over it. And when I bought the blanket, a thought had came into my mind like, you're not gonna even see that baby. And I would be fighting those thoughts. So I'm like, okay, it's just nothing but the attack of the enemy trying to distract me from this beautiful gift that God has given me. And I'm familiar with the attacks of, our minds that the enemy tries to put on us. And I was like, okay, well, I'm equipped for it. So that means I just got to get into my word more and start to listen to affirmations in the morning. So I just was super aware of things that I had to do to combat those thoughts and fully embracing like the new life and the new change that was happening in my life. But it just didn't and I think now though, it's such a blessing in it because I got this new awareness of like my body, and I've noticed the blessing in preparation. Like, okay, God, maybe not now, and you let me be aware of the things that I do need to do just for myself, not being a pregnant woman, like just as a woman in general. These are the things that you should be doing for yourself. Because once the baby came, the thought of the baby came, that I knew I was pregnant, I was like, okay, I'm switching everything. Like, as women, we just kick into full mode when it's time for baby time. But God had let me know, he was just like, do that for yourself as a woman. Even if you don't have a baby in your stomach, you still have the ability to birth and bring life. That's your purpose as a woman. So treat yourself like that, whether it's a baby in there or not. Prepare for the baby. And he gave me a gift of feeling emotions that I've never been able to tap into before. I was like crying out, like after this last book that I wrote those poems years ago, and I couldn't get nothing out again. Excuse me. Going through this miscarriage, I just went deeper into myself and put out so many awarenesses of myself and just for us as women that has been helping me heal, and I know for sure will help other people heal. So it's brought me so many new awareness things to be aware of in life in general, and just I feel like it's connected me just to women more, because you hear about women having miscarriages, and I just never thought, I'm like, I'm healthy, my body is fine, but then it happened to me, and you just don't even, afterwards, your body goes through, you can't even explain it, you can't even, like, the way your brain feels, the way your body feels, how tired you are. Sometimes you just be staring at yourself crying. And after the miscarriage, before the miscarriage, I used to look in the mirror and just, regularly look in the mirror. Once I went through the miscarriage and I was going through it, I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I just started to appreciate my body so much more. So I'm like, you've been through some stuff, girl. Like, you've experienced some stuff, and you was carrying this baby, and then now you're in transition of this baby passing through you, this energy life source. Even though it wasn't a full human being yet, soon as it was a baby attached to you, it was a human life force. So you're experiencing that. And I just looked at my body totally different. I just had so much more appreciation for the strength of my body. And I'm still excited to be a mom again. More excited, I think, now. So got me in here crying.
Okay. You gotta let it out. But
Beyonce said this thing one time. She was like, I give myself a day or two or a weekend to cry, and then after that, I'm back to being Beyonce. So I had told my husband, I was just like, I'm going to cry today, I'm going to cry tomorrow, but Monday, I'm going to be back. And then that was last week. And then he was like, and even if you're not, that's okay too. I'm like, okay. So then the Monday came, and I just couldn't get adjustment with my body. I felt like I didn't recognize, I didn't know what was going on with myself. Like it was just so unfamiliar. I was learning myself all over again. And that's when I started to dig even deeper and like, okay, figure out what's going on with yourself mentally. Figure out where your heart posture is. Like, know all these things about you. Be fully aware of yourself. And I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
Be fully aware of yourself.
Mm-hmm. But before that.
Focus on your body posture.
Mm-hmm.
You were just speaking to, the fact that you were kind of seeing yourself as a new woman.
Yeah, as a new woman.
Just kind of
and then trying to get back. Okay, yeah, trying to get back to myself. And then last week I kind of moved around in it, and then but this week I feel like I'm better.
So when you say back to yourself, what do you mean by that?
I'm always like moving. I'm admitting now, I'm like an A-type personality.
I
So
don't know much about the A, B, and C personality.
I'm very like efficient, organized, like clean. If things aren't like clean, it like stresses me out. I'm working on, my husband is helping me work on like allowing things just go and be how they supposed to be. But I'm in the journey right now. I'm not fully, I haven't graduated. I'm still in it. But I'm back to my flow and my routine and like things that help me be sane for myself. Because sometimes if I lay down for too long, I'll be like, what are you doing? Get up, go do something. Like you should be doing something right now. And I'm trying to find a balance now. So, and I'm accepting and still moving at the same time. I took a lot of things off my plate because the baby and everything, it put everything into perspective where certain things that I thought were important, they weren't really that important when my health was at jeopardy. So some of those things have been moved off the plate and now I'm just like, all right, I'm back in my zone. I got me a little routine going.